Ashi Shime and Ashi Yubi Shime. Generally start this facing an opponent and they throw a roundhouse punch. 2-hand block, I'm going to do some kind of sweep and get them on their back. I'm going to do Oso Dagari. I really need that leg, once I sweep it, to come up high. So either really commit to that, or maybe even do Hizanage, put your foot on the back of the knee and drive, or even possibly Dayashi Barai, or as we kind of do with Dayashi Hayanada, block, fade, and sweep, but get that leg way up in the air and catch it up in your armpit. In any event, what I need to have them do is flat on their back and have that leg come flying way up in the air for me. Facing me, I sweep, flat on the back, and their leg comes flying up in the air. I'm going to use a pillow for the body. A lot of the recent videos I've been using the roller because it really helps show the neck. This is more about the body, and I really need the hip, so I want the counter pressure to be able to feel that. Put the pillow in, put it down nice and low, so I've got a hip here. Swept that leg up, comes flying up into my armpit. Hook and come underneath. I'm using that bone just like I do to choke with, Hadakuchi may be. Coming underneath. I'm basically choking the back of the calf. I'm going to do that by arching my back. First, I'm going to do it from standing. Sweep, leg comes in my armpit, I catch, and you can see as I arch my back and push my hips forward, it lifts that hip off the ground. It's a nice way to control them, making it really hard for them to come back and counter that. If I want to go to the ground, which we usually do, I'm going to step over with my inside leg and wrap around, step into the outside. I don't want to just step over and put my foot on the ground though. This is where I really need the hip. I step over and I put the top of my foot right against the body, right against the hip. I kind of tuck my toes underneath them and push the top of my foot against their hip for counter pressure. If I just step down on the ground, I'm in a kind of an awkward position, and I do have their leg, but they can push and kick and kind of knock me off balance. So the way I'm going to use their own body for counter pressure to give me a better base. I step over, push my foot against the hip, sliding my toes underneath that way. So I'm actually creating one unit. My leg becomes part of their body. And as I lean back, I'm actually using their body for counter pressure to give me a base. And that also keeps it locked in nice and tight. But when I drop back into that leg lock. Again, I caught it from the beginning and I never let it go. That bone's cutting right across the middle of the calf. Nice calf cutter. Wrapping, arching my back, and curling in underneath the calf. Now, another reason to put that foot in nice and tight on that hip is because one of the main counters for this is if I leave that leg out too much, they're just going to sit up and grab my leg, and now we got a tug of war. If you've done the practice this at all with any resistance, I'm sure you've ended up in this position where you're both trying to go for this same technique. One of the two ways to prevent that, one is the way I set it up to begin with. I got my toe underneath and I'm pushing my heel against the hip to make it harder for them to get underneath my calf. And two, my other leg, I'm actually going to pull in and shoot it under their butt, pushing with the scissors motion. Gives you nice control of the hip, makes it really difficult for them to actually sit up. They can kind of do a crunch. They can't come all the way up because you're controlling their hip. Forces them to either try to roll one way or the other, which is fine. I can just follow them and keep it on. It's just like an arm bar. I don't really care where we go from here. I still got it. And wherever they stop, I just start adding more pressure, or even along the way. Now, Ashi Yubi Shime. We start from the same as before, and I'll do that separately in just a minute, but we often will just follow straight in from this position. For Ashi Yubi, I'm going to sit back and let that foot pop out. One thing you can do in training, what you can't do in judo, is you can do a heel hook. I think you can do it at the black belt level, I'm not sure off the top of my head. But you have to be very careful with that heel hook. Just let the heel out, not the foot. Hook it under your crook of your elbow. You've got a nice ankle lock there as well before you set up Ashi Yubi. But just to keep it simple and safe, I just let the heel pop out all the way. Pops out. Put my hand on the knee so I can know where to slide my leg. My leg was extended before, now I need to bring it in and up the leg, up the shin, just below the knee. The placement is really important. If you're too high up on the thigh or on the knee itself, there's still movement below the leg. You're just below the kneecap, put that pressure and lock it. So I put my hand on the knee, slide up till I meet my hand so I know I'm just below the knee. It's a little bit like triangle choke, sankaku. Put my ankle underneath my knee, except I don't need to pull it back. I'm just using it for reinforcement. From here, the mistake most people make is they try to squeeze. I don't actually want to squeeze, I want to separate. Have my knees going opposite directions. Hopefully you can see this in the video a little bit. When I lock in and I squeeze, nothing really happens. You can see I can still move this around just like they'd move their leg around. When I go the other way, not only does it keep it from moving, you can see how it's starting to bend the stick. That's how all that pressure is going into the knee now. So again, from Ashinada, swings up, throw over, lock it in, have a seat. Once they tap or we want to switch to something else, hand on the knee, let that foot pop out, slide up just under the knee, lock it in, and open up. Also want to control the foot, so grab the heel, grab the toes, twist and lock it to my body as I'm opening up those knees for the lock. Same thing from standing. You're going to throw a roundhouse punch, and I'm facing them. The lock, Osotogari, Hizanage, the Ashibarai, whatever you need to do, get them on their back and hook that leg. The difference now is instead of just stepping over and locking it in, first thing I want to do is put my hand on the kneecap. That way I don't have to look down and try to figure out where the knee is. I feel the knee, and then I can place my leg right underneath the kneecap. I let the ankle out as I fall back. Put the other leg over, open those knees, lock the foot in, and lock. Ashi Nada Shime, Ashi Yubi Shime.